Hey everybody, welcome to the live stream. This is my first e-bike products industry news live stream. And if there's any problems, just so you know, this is a test that I wanted to go ahead and try to see if I can get this done right. And in the meantime, what I'd also want to say is that we're going to have some links that will be put up for some of the things I'll be referencing, because this is about e-bike thefts. And there's been an issue. And what's interesting is about a year ago today, what brought this back up to go ahead and do this news part of it is because I had 7 e-bikes stolen from my my storage facility, where someone actually went to my storage where I had a whole bunch of e-bikes in there, and they ripped off the door of my storage facility and took 7 of the e-bikes and disappeared. And of course, police were actually no help in my local area. It wasn't basically any of their concern, is what they actually thought. So I wanted to go ahead and actually talk about what's been going on over the last year, because e-bike thefts are basically seemingly on the rise. And there's some really interesting stories that I had come across almost about 4 or 5 months ago, is where I really started looking into what was going on with different thefts and what people should do. And I'm going to bring some of these up here and start streaming with these that I'm going to talk about, some stories that I'm just finding on the internet. And if you do e-bike thefts news, you're going to see stuff like this all over the place. And what's a little scary about this is you got all different kinds of scams going on about thefts, not just basically stealing bikes, but also stuff like this. They're using counterfeit cash to actually buy bikes. And this is in Huntington Beach in Southern California. And this guy actually used a bunch of cash and he bought a bunch of bikes from people. One of them was like $4,200. I mean, they have pictures of him at least. They haven't caught him yet. But this is one instance of things that have been going on as far as thefts. Here's some big stories though. You want to talk about some really huge ones. There's like almost 1 million bikes stolen, or $1 million worth of bikes stolen from a container. There is a story here where you'll be able to see. Yeah, let's go ahead and, oh, this is the Harlem one, but here, this is a news cast about bikes stolen, and they have some really clear video on how this guy, whoever is the thief, was driving this truck, came and then took the trailer right out of the dock. This is in British Columbia, somewhere in Canada, and it's $1 million worth of bikes. Now the thing is, these guys had some really special, not on the market bikes called the Juggernauts. So if you guys ever see these Bike Tricks bikes out there, this is the owner of Bike Tricks, I think, and he was talking about how these bikes were like kind of newer pre-production models that would come in. And Bike Tricks is a well-known, reputable brand out there, and they got some really great bikes out there. Oh, here's the founder. He's talking about how, yeah, the bikes got ripped off from them and how the police were actually pretty useless for them too. So one thing you can say is, in some places, some police will not help, but there's still more stories I'm going to share with you that actually talk about how there are some police departments that are actually helping a lot of people. One of the main stories I want to do, which was actually kind of funny, let's go ahead, is that there is this video here that's out there where this guy is a bike thief, and what he's doing is he decides this is the guard dog that's supposed to be guarding this bike, and he makes a friend of him and even gives the dog belly rubs, which, you know, not much of a guard dog, but at least the dog didn't get hurt. But the guy ended up stealing a $1,300 bike from this person's garage, and at least they got him on video too. But this video is actually kind of funny. I thought it was one of the more funny videos that were out there about this. But this is a serious matter when it comes to bike thefts, because there's a lot of stories. I'm not going to pull any of these up because it just is kind of sad. But there's a lot of stories about people getting stabbed for their bikes. Here, this one is the Henderson story that I had originally saw back in, I believe, March or April. It talked about this park here in Henderson, Nevada, and this lady's son, who I think was 10 years old, was riding his bike worth $6,000 at this park. Now, this park is actually made for bikes. I don't know specifically e-bikes or not, but it is and it has ramps and jumps and stuff. And the kid was riding. I mean, I tried to look up what kind of bike he might have been riding that went into. There's more stories on it, and I think there was even a picture on it. So I tried to grab a picture on it, and it showed a bike that's one of those kind of like the Surons. It's more of a dirt bike, an off-road style dirt bike that does have a lot of power, but the kid was riding it at 10 o'clock at night at this park, and it was dark. And the mom's complaint is that they should have lights. I'm wondering, maybe he shouldn't be riding at 10 o'clock at night, because somebody approached him at gunpoint and actually ended up stealing the bike. And thank goodness the kid wasn't hurt, but a $6,000 bike becomes kind of a target if you really kind of think about it. So that's another thing. Security guards stealing bikes in Irvine. I mean, that's another issue that's been happening. And another bike theft here. And these just are basic stuff that's happening all over the place. The other thing is, thefts are happening a lot of times in people's garages. So that's another thing. I did a video a while back about actually bikes being, I think something like 80% of bikes are actually stolen at people's places where they live. So you want to make sure that your bike is actually locked up, no matter what. Even if it's at home and you think it's safe in the garage, statistically, that's the one of the biggest places that they will get stolen. There's other places, e-bike spree in Harlem. There's these guys that are actually running around. And
for the suspects who are
Street delivery.
It's the delivery guys that are actually being targeted. And a lot of times they're talking about how people are coming up with knives, or it's so fast on the way that it's happening that they're just coming up, and as soon as the delivery guy gets off the bike, someone's running behind and stealing it. The other problem that actually is happening is that they're stealing batteries. And what this officer is talking about is how when the batteries are the concern that's getting stolen, or the bike is being stolen without actually the charger, that means they're going to use off-market chargers on a battery that does leave a huge concern that it could actually catch on fire. So these are things that are really, I guess, problems that are out there. So what I want to talk about, what can you do to protect yourself from having your bike stolen? And another reason why I wanted to bring up this is because there are now a lot of these off-market, these are, I had an Apple tag somewhere, but the Apple tags are very effective in actually helping people getting their bikes back. So for instance, this stolen e-bike recovered almost 2 years later because of the Apple tag. And it's an interesting story. In fact, I'll put this in the link or in the description later on about this story, because if those of you who don't know, if you get one of these type of tags, especially an Apple tag, it needs an Apple phone nearby. And what happened was the guy had his bike stolen, and it ended up pinging him to say that the tag was actually showing up, where the bike was in this big apartment building. Since he couldn't identify which apartment it's in, he couldn't really do much. But every once in a while, the person would go ride the stolen bike and it would start pinging again. And by the time he got there, he'd be chasing his bike around. And somehow the police got involved, and they actually went and found finally somebody who had the bike, told that person that the bike was stolen, and it wasn't actually the thief. I think it was like somebody who bought the bike that didn't realize the bike was stolen. They ended up actually giving the bike up because it was obvious it was stolen. The tag was still in the bike. So these things are effective. I have a bunch of these because we went traveling not too long ago, and we put them on our luggage, and you could actually see where they're at. You know, in case our luggage ever got misplaced because we were on an international flight, we wanted to know how we could locate it, and these were going to be one of the ways to do it. The other thing that these are really cool for is just a thought. If you have a kid that doesn't have a cell phone because they're too young, and you go to someplace like a mall or a theme park, you can stick this on them, and then you can locate your kid. Also, if you're close enough, they can push this and it'll beep your phone back. I'll have a link to this. You can actually go to ebikeproducts.com/tag. That's plural, tags. Okay, so ebikeproducts.com/tags. And I have if I'll bring this up here. This is a redirect link that will take you to the Amazon webpage that has the best part of, I just did a search for Apple tags, so it'll take you there, and it'll show you all the different tags that are on the market. And for $10, some of these are only $10 now. Apple tags are because it's a name brand Apple, and there's nothing wrong with them. I actually think if you can't afford to get an Apple tag, you should. Don't get deceived by this $3.99. That's just a case. Okay, but the Apple tags run about $20 each if you buy them in bulk, or $25. And then they have these, I guess, off brands. Like this is EUFY, a UFI brand. And you also get these, but take a look at these prices that we have here. So $39.99 for 4 of them. and a 30% coupon that you get immediately too, which will bring the price even lower. So even this one here, $50, $10 coupon, which will bring it to $40. You must make sure that it works with Apple Find My. If you don't have an Apple phone, you probably want to get a different tag locator. If you are an Apple user, which I am, that's why we use Apple tags. As long as it's works with Apple Find My, these tags will work fantastic. And I don't know the different sizes. I mean, this is about the size of a silver dollar, and you can stick it in. I would say if you can open up your controller and shove it in there and then close your controller back up, there's usually, most controllers are sealed with screws. That's where I would probably most likely stick it. And I have seen story after story after story of people getting their bikes back because of the Apple tag. And there's just, unfortunately, there's also people who are putting tags on people's bikes to figure out where the bikes are going and then actually stealing the bikes at locations. So that's not been an uncommon problem in the past. But when you're using it legitimately to hide it in your bike, you can actually go ahead and have your bike found. Now, these indicators, if the thief has an Apple phone, it will tell them that a tag is tracking them. And a lot of times thieves will kind of panic when they know that a tag is tracking them, because they don't know how long they have before you catch up. Because obviously if it's tracking them, it's transmitting at the same time. So a lot of thieves, from what I've heard in the past too, will abandon a bike once they realize the tag is actually tracking them as well. So this hopefully has been helpful in that area of understanding ways to secure it. Of course, you always want to secure your bike as absolutely well as possible. You just don't want to make sure you leave it available to anybody else to steal. I do have a video on some security from in the past. I'll put a link to that in below. But I did make a video about using certain types of locks. Unfortunately, people have been telling me that no matter what, and I believe it's true, if somebody really wants your bike and they're carrying, say, like an angle saw, like almost nothing can stop that. So they will steal your bike regardless. But somebody has to be carrying an angle saw if they want your bike specifically, but you don't want to make it easily accessible. Because the other problem is when somebody stole 7 of my bikes, I have 7 batteries now for these bikes because I don't leave the batteries with my bikes because in storage, that's not good for them. So I have them, and now they're running around with these bikes. If they try to find replacement batteries that are not legitimately made for the bikes and they're trying to jimmy rig them, or they get some cheap stuff from, say, Alibaba and some chargers, it puts them at risk more than anything else. But I mean, they're going to have to spend at least a few $100s to get any of the bikes running. So, regardless, if I had just one tag on one of those bikes, I could have found my bike, because I know what happened was somebody took those 7 bikes and they moved it from one storage facility to the other because they never left the storage location. So that is a lesson learned on my part. Another reason why I have some of these, because the bikes that I do intend to make sure that are higher value or that are probably higher theft targets, I would probably put these on. Fortunately, I live in a safer area, but obviously not safe enough because I got 7 bikes stolen. But I just love to hear what you guys actually think about. How do you keep your bike safe? I mean, I've even heard that there have cages locked up in people's apartment buildings just for e-bikes, and those are still getting stolen. But there are just so many other ways to try to keep them safe. You can, I honestly believe if you actually take, what do they call that? Quick release pedals. I will actually put a link to that. Actually, let me show you what I'm talking about with these quick release pedals, because these have been actually really effective. I'm going to go ahead and bring this up on Amazon so you can actually see me pedals. And quick release pedals like this, if you put these on your bike, what happens is someone tries to jump on and you take your seat off. They will have to run or carry the bike away. I actually am a big fan of these. As you can see, it says purchased back in 2022. I purchased probably about 6 to 10 pairs of these, because I put them on all the bikes that I actually do want to. One thing is they make it so much easier to store, but it takes half a second to really pull off each pedal one at a time. And then I also then have quick release seats where you take your seat with you, stick it in a backpack, and if you go in a grocery store, if somebody wants to take your bike, they will have to run with it. They can't ride it because there's no pedals to stand on, or there's no seat at the same time. And that makes it that much more difficult. Plus, if you lock it up and you don't have those put in there, it also makes it more difficult for them to think about out, I have to unlock it, and I'm going to have to walk it away, but just to likely get caught. So that's my quick solution if you're going to be leaving your bike, especially you guys who are delivery people who are maybe in New York that have this high probability of getting stuff stolen. It's worth the extra 2 seconds to take off your pedals and then grab your seat at the same time, walk up a stairs, maybe carry an extra bag just to stick it in very quickly. Then when you come back, stick your seat back in, put your pedals back in, and you're good to go. That, like I said, I mean, if they're riding off with the bikes, you're going to have a hard time catching them if you're on foot. Then put an air tag on top of that. It really doesn't cost that much for that whole security system to be put in place. The other thing I can tell you is maybe take your battery with you. Now, there is a whole another article about people stealing batteries. It doesn't make sense to me because if they don't have a key, a lot of times, a lot of them don't obviously need keys, but you steal a battery. A lot of these batteries only work for very proprietary style bikes, like, even Rad now has integrated, Electric has integrated. These batteries, they need keys a lot of times to go and turn on. So I'm not really sure about these thieves stealing batteries. I know that there might be a market for it somewhere, but that makes it a little more difficult. But I did also want to say there are bike companies. If you look at some of the most recent bike, the Discover by Velotric, Discover 2, it's one of the more recent videos I just put up on the channel. It actually has Find My built into the bike. And that's pretty cool because not only does it have Find My, but if somebody shakes the bike, it also has they told me that it uses the LTE network cell phone, and it actually texted me and alerted me through an app that the bike was moved and just shaken. So that's pretty cool. And then it also has GPS right on there's an app that shows you GPS exactly where the bike is at. And so that is another thing that you can actually look into while looking at bikes. Technology is getting so much cheaper for a lot of these companies that are bringing out new e-bikes that you can actually look into getting bikes now that have GPS Find My built in. So that's another tool that's available for you. But I hope this live stream has come out. I'd like to do more stuff like this. And I'd like to hear also, for those of you who are watching after the live stream is already done, I'd like to hear your thoughts about thefts. Have any of you guys actually had bikes stolen? Unfortunately, it's like a common theme. Bikes get stolen all the time. And how are you guys protecting yourselves now from getting stolen? The other thing is just, I guess, know where your area is and what type of lock security you're going to have that you need and how long you're going to be leaving things out there. I use the Bordeaux locks myself. These are, let me go ahead. I can bring that up. These are the foldable, Abus Bordeaux folding lock. These are the locks that I actually use, and they're actually higher grade. And I bought a 2 set because that way I can lock 2 tires or two together to make one long one if I need a longer location. But these are pretty strong locks, and they also have, the higher grade ones even have warrant protection, insurance protection for you as well. But if there's anything you guys need, actually I've been told that there's actually figure out, I can do chat. How come? Okay, so Leo's asking, are thieves getting around residential automatic? You know what? In my area, yes. There are people who are getting... I live in an area that actually has... everybody has automatic garage doors. I live in a condo complex. And they're smart enough to know how to get into the garages there's so many ways to actually do it. Now, if you have one of those that actually comes down like this, where it's a rolling gate, those are a little harder. But our garage doors are ones that actually come up like a panel, and apparently it's not very hard because my doors are actually not as flexible as you think, because I have a in tandem long garage, and these guys, what they do is they have one person pull the paneling or the door large enough so that someone smaller can slip in, and usually there's a release on the inside that they can open it up. But yes, they are actually getting around automatic garage. In fact, my area, I know bikes have been stolen from automatic garage doors. The other thing is, my area is, I guess it's not as safe as I thought. I do lock my bikes up in my own garage as well. It's only because I'm always scared that I might accidentally forget to close the garage after I leave. But yeah, they do get around those as well. Other than that, I think this is it for the live stream. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I'd love to, if you guys could like and subscribe to the channel. That'll really help actually gain momentum. And if there's anything else about e-bikes that you'd like to know that I could actually help out with, I will be doing an episode on how to buy or how to know what e-bike you might want to end up buying, because that is a question I get almost weekly. How do I know what bike to buy? And that's just a whole conversation in itself. You know, the 10 things you should know. Maybe I think I'll do a 10 point list or 7-point list of the main things I ask people questions on before they actually buy, because I do have a lot of brands in that I've tested, over 45 or 50 bikes that I've actually reviewed of various different brands as well. And it's not necessarily a brand I'd even be thinking about buying. It's the actual type of bike. So I'll be doing a live stream on that the next time around.